My name is Julie Hobbs. I'm Director in Strategy and Innovation at the BRE and also the Circular Economy Lead for BRE. So we've got some really exciting pitches coming up of the shortlisted products and services for the resourceful category. So what's going to happen is each person's going to come up, they're going to talk for 5 minutes. The judges, got my esteemed judges here. Do you want to stand up? It's got Kat Fletcher and Nick Gant, who are the other judges. We're missing one judge, so if Brendan is anywhere in the audience, please make yourself known. So we'll be pitching for 5 minutes, questions for 5 minutes, and then at the end of it, we'll just ask you to maybe hang around for 10 minutes whilst we decide who the winner is, and then we'll come back and announce the winner. So. Without further ado, if we can go on to the first pitch, who are... Yeah, so over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name's Michael Walsh, and I'm the Technical and Operations Director for Texfelt. Sorry.
Just use the arrows.
Right, okay. Can I start again? For Texfelt. Texfelt is a non-woven manufacturer based in Bradford, part of the JR Fibre Group, and we built a brand new facility in 2017 and began commissioning in 2018. My job was twofold. One was to commission and unlock the potential of the plant, and two was to develop the next generation of sustainable non-woven products for both our existing markets but also new sectors. I'm here to talk about Springbond, which has been our greatest success to date, which is our unique carpet underlay. Springbond was the first underlay to achieve a verified EPD through BRE. We developed the product to be a competitor to well-established polyurethane products which are abundant in the flooring market. We wanted to create a product that gave the consumer a clear choice in relation to raw material, sustainability, and indoor air quality through off-gassing. We also wanted to create a product which answered some of the historical criticisms of fibre-based underlays, insofar as they're heavy, propensity to flatten, difficult to fit, but also challenging to market well. So what's innovative about Springbond? Well, I'll start with the raw materials. It's manufactured from over 85% recycled and regenerated polyester. And those fibres come from plastic bottles, single-use plastics, and manufacturing wastes. We effectively turn a 20-minute disposable item into a 10-year plus long-term consumer product. The other critical point here is that we don't use any glues, any binders, any solvents in the manufacturing process, only polyester. The product has a cradle-to-cradle inspired design principle. Being made from only one material type means that at the end of its life, it makes it very easy to make it back into another pure polyester product of some kind. We also recycle all of our edge trims in line and put them back into the plant and process. So while using polyester exclusively also gives the product some fantastic characteristics, which I'll talk about in a second. But how do we make it? Springbond is a blend of 4 different polyesters. The regenerated fibres are created by shredding, chipping, and washing things like plastic bottles. And then they're extruded into fibres of determined diameter. We then combine these 4 different fibres in very defined, controlled proportions before engineering them into a defined structure, which allows us to move it on. The product is then thermally bonded, and then it's condensed to its final thickness, and the condensation of the product gives a sweeping, spring-like structure in the product, which gives it great resilience in the vertical plane. The outcome is that we have a product which has very high recycled content, assured environmental impact through our EPD, good thermal insulation, which improves the efficiency of residential dwellings and their running costs. We have industry-leading acoustics, which in some cases means that we don't have to use engineered acoustic systems in things like high-rise and communal dwellings. It also has an ultra-low VOC content, only 46 micrograms per cubic meter of air through testing. I believe this is a product of its time. When we're manufacturing this product, we are diverting over 10,000 plastic bottles per hour from the environment. I think it also answers a number of well-understood concerns that we all understand about what we're putting into our homes, be them around plastic pollution, indoor air quality from off-gassing, or even noisy children upstairs. The product is competitive in the market and should not require intervention until uplifted, at which point it can be fully recycled. Now, we made a short film which tells the story of how Spring Bond is made. It's a product that we're hugely proud of at Texfelt, and I hope you enjoy the film. We've got some noise. Sound? Thank you.
Thank you. Great, great presentation. Thank
Thank you.
Like, really interesting product. We don't have much time, so I'm just going to ask a quick question. The film implies that the plastic waste comes from overseas, but surely there would be, especially now, you'd be able to source that locally from the UK?
Good question.
Or are there plans to do that, or are there barriers, or is there an issue around that?
The big issue is that the quality of recycled materials in Europe is not good enough quality, not pure enough, not good enough. And we need it's a technical product which needs to perform, and therefore we need fibres which, I mean, we partner people worldwide, and we ensure that we know what's going into it. Through the EPD, I can tell you that the embedded CO2 in shipping a container of the polyester to Felixstowe is less than putting it on a truck and driving it from Felixstowe to Bradford.
Yeah, I know there's all sorts of weird things like that, aren't there? And just one last thing, I know you said it's recyclable. Just about everything on the planet is recyclable if there's a system, if it's labelled properly, a whole bunch of stuff. So I just wondered, to that end, you know, are you working on the end of life of your product, even though that might be 10 years down the line?
Yes, we are. With it being a pure polymer, it does allow for, you don't have to deconstruct the product and then put it in a bin for that, and a bin for that, and a bin for that, or go to the lowest common denominator in terms of an end use, another use. So we are actively engaging with waste collectors now to say, look, I mean, we brand it with a number one logo, because it's polyester, number one recycled logo. So we're engaging with waste collectors now to say, look, you can put this with your bottles and it will work. But there's an educational thing going on, and as we know, every local authority's got a different set of rules in terms of what's recyclable and not.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation.
Okay.
In your film, you had turtles and people. And I just wondered whether you could tell us a bit more about the relationship of your product to those two things. How does it benefit people and how does it benefit turtles?
Well, we all know that there's an awful lot of plastic pollution in the oceans. What I can tell you is about 10% of the plastic bottle content in our product comes from watercourses, be it local sort of streams and rivers or from the beaches. In one of the rolls of our 11mm underlay, we state there's 180 bottles per roll. I know that's conservative at the moment, but we estimate that would be 18 to 20 from watercourses. And in terms of people, unfortunately, there is a plastic pollution problem, and it gets shoved overseas. And I think the film quite clearly shows that there is how can I put it? There's meaningful work and there's meaningful economic benefits to people doing this stuff. I'd rather it wasn't there in the first place, because then that would force us, and that would force a lot of people to then just to work a bit harder to find more local recycling solutions.
Okay, yeah, I don't expect to know the answer to this one straight away, or you may have calculated it, but if you were able to displace all the typical underlay with your product, how much plastic or how many bottles would that represent?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't have those figures to hand. What I can tell you is that the average house would take about 1,000 bottles.
I think I know RAP calculated a number of years ago that 400,000 tonnes of carpet is disposed of every year in landfills. So that would give you an idea. That's obviously probably being replaced, isn't it?
Well, that depends on the weight of the carpet.
Yeah.
So you'd probably say a general carpet would be about 3 kilos a square metre, so whatever, 400, I think it was 480,000 actually. 480,000 divided by 3 kilos a square metre. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Sorry, thank you very much anyway. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Done?
Yeah.
Right.
Is my time up now? Hi.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, all right. Hi, I'm Tony. I came here from Finland, and I come from a 100-year-old company which has been the most sold kitchen in Finland for over 40 years. And 2013 we launched a new line of product, and we call it Puusteli Miinus. And what's new about it is we changed all the materials from the conventional. So we don't use any chipboard, any MDF, but we started using wood, and then the big game changer was the biocomposite frame. So instead of using a cabinet with boards, we made a frame which we can take half of the material and then start to upgrade from that. And basically you could say that we in product development, our challenges were of course to go as ecological as possible, and also at the same time to go as to the indoor air that we get cleaner indoor air. So that was very important. We have been making quality kitchens for a long time. So our normal kitchen is about 20 years in use, and we wanted to make this better. So we sort of gave this part also the warranty of 30 years. So we're looking at over 30 years, up to 50 years of time in the usage. Less is more, of course. That's a Finnish and a Scandinavian thing that we try to make to cope with as little as possible, but benefit more from it. And that's one of the super nice things with it, that we started to use as little as possible, but got the durability up to a total new level. For example, in the material biocomposite, we now use PP, so plastic, and wood pulp, so 40% is wood fibers in this. And compared, for example, to one side of a cabinet, we use 2.4 kilos of the biocomposite, and it's over 6 kilos would be one board. So and also then we did everything was based on facts. So we did a lot of research around it, and for example, where our facts come from is that we did a comparison to our normal kitchen. So we made two similar kitchens and counted out the whole life cycle of it. But what we couldn't take in was the sort of the lifetime of it. So that is so basically the carbon bank could be one thing we could talk more about also, but there the materials we are using is sort of showing the, for example, we use a lot of OSB, and instead of the chipboard, OSB is about 15, our OSB that we use is about 15% more in the CO2 bank. So 1 cubic meter, for example, is 860 something kilos of CO2 that it's binding. So basically, every time we start to think about a new product to take developing, we try to keep it like the last slide showed that less is more. So few choices, but at the same time we can do more things with that part. So that's why we call it a furniture and not just a kitchen. So we can do any, at the moment we can do basically the whole house. So every furniture you might need is possible, and in a couple of weeks time we're even launching a bathroom cabinet that even the sides are, it's closed but it's totally waterproof, for example. Then about what kind of, we sort of also stripped down, so we started to ask the question that, do we need a back panel, do we need a cabinet? So there's a lot of cabinets here, and our answer is that we don't need. It can look like a traditional kitchen, but it can have super new features. So basically you can do with one of the old kitchen's carbon footprint, you can do two of these. And that is a huge difference. One of the that makes me most proud is the sort of the responsibility that we are sort of as a company, because we know that we can't leave it just to the consumers. So the company has to do. So our company also, we have about 300 people working there, and we are using solar panel. We are heating up the company with spill products from our own production, and at the same time we are doing a huge difference. So for example, one project down in Malmö, we did a careful evaluation how much was the carbon footprint saving. Time is up. Really? Not yet. 1 minute. Okay. 1 minute, fast. So what we the fact was that I could drive with my Volvo V60 diesel 2 times around the world just by delivering 86 kitchen to that project. And so that's also the thing with the investment, is that we get a good product, so a top-class product, but at the same time we're doing a lot of good, and that's the responsibility part that we as a factory have. And at the same time, that's why I'm standing here also to talk about the time is to act is now, and we can make a big change and also make the product a lot better, because nobody can justify that we have a good product but nobody's using it, then it's worthless. So we need to get the product out there. Do I still have?
Yeah, thank you very much. Great presentation. So thinking about how you get the product out there, are you targeting any particular market?
Yeah, our main, I had it in there, but the time came up. So basically, we are at the moment, we see UK, of course, as a big possibility. Small area, a lot of people. So, and here you have the same kind of challenges that we might have in Finland with the different sort of seasons of the year. So you have humidity and stuff and like that. So UK is for sure. Then we have sold in 3 years. We have been selling in USA also. And of course, our main market is close by, so everywhere where we can sort of make good transportation is, but basically we can deliver already anywhere in the world. So we're sort of looking, but building up here. So we have, for example, here in UK, a couple of spots where we can sell.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, so it's a molded frame? The structure is in effect molded?
Injection molding.
Injection molded.
Yes.
So presumably there's an upside in the limitations on waste that's created.
Yes.
Yeah?
We basically what we also in production time, one of those sides takes about 2 minutes to make. And for example, in black color, we have the waste is sort of almost zero, and we can reuse that waste up to 7 times. But in white, for example, there is color differentiations, and because of the, let's say we made a choice that not to let it out, so it had to be sort of perfect white. So we have been saving all of those, and basically had a plan that we can even take it back. And now this fall, now when we're launching, for example, the bathroom product, we can use a gray that is totally recycled.
I just had a curious question about whether, like the sides, the panels, can you make bespoke? Can you change your mind next year and change to red, or do you know for individual?
Yeah,
kind of design
our
features?
sellers would love that, but the point is, of course, yes, you can, and we know that the piece which is going to wear out is the ones that are the doors
The
and the,
moving,
yeah.
yeah.
Or,
Not the static ones.
yeah, so those can be, but usually, for example, we have a whole series of OSB also, so you can just sand it and paint it yourself if you want. So
Cool. And then there's just the price question. You know, does it compare favorably with mainstream products, or is it a challenge because it's more expensive, or is it more economic?
Basically, it's an assumption that it's more expensive. If you use wooden doors and a hard worktop, you're roughly in the same. So it's not more expensive, but it's more. We use more expensive materials, so you cannot compare it to the melamine doors or the laminate worktops. And that's why we have a sort of and that's also a good question and something we like to correct, that it's not more expensive.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, and it's often the case. Yeah, it's just your entry point in the market. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You ready? As soon as I press this, it'll start the timer.
Should I press it, or it'll do it itself?
Okay.
How do you do? My name is David Garlowski. This is the story behind recycling denim jeans into low-carbon insulation. No, you have shorts, and then what happens when you cut off the shorts? The bottom. And we take that and make it into insulation. Recovery insulation is manufactured low-carbon recycled insulation. In July 2013, it was transferred to Relais in France. The investment of the Matisse represents a cost of around $5 million, including the building, which paid for itself in around 8 years. With annual maintenance costs approximately average between 50 and 80,000 euros. We need now investment to build the NextWorks plant now in the UK, and we're looking for that to source it locally. All the denim, not all of it now anymore, most of it comes from France, but now we've just recently working with a company in Doncaster, and they're sending old jeans to them as well. We offer for export the Matisse Inotherm brand. We are the UK agent and distributor of Inotherm. The manufacturing turnover of our mother company in France was 4 million last year. Our turnover was 100,000. But that's without any marketing, only by word of mouth and by people who hit our website. Now, I was motivated originally to develop this project because we need a healthy, quality environment in your home and low cost and energy saving. With our insulation, there's no VOCs, there's no toxins, and if we have an offer now that people can use our insulation as a top-up, because what's coming off of your conventional insulation, your loft, is VOCs for formaldehyde and everything else. This can go over it, and it's very helpful for the environment. Now, and also now we're looking into creating our project to be an offset project in relation to carbon emissions, because we certainly recognize the issue of climate emergency. It's made of 85% cotton. 85% of the cotton is denim. And 5.5% is used in energy in the sorting process, because it's all done by hand. You can see from that thing, it's low carbon. P1 is ours. P2 is our major conventional insulation. So it's lower in carbon. And this has been found 4 and 5 times over by research we've done. And now we're also taking things that don't have to go into landfill if we take our textiles into recycling. We're now also there's a new EU 2025 textile collection scheme that will be very pertinent to our system. And also, we're very much in line with the circular economy, and we do full life cycle cost of the EPD. The challenge is that people value money more than they value a healthful environment, unfortunately. But we're trying to overcome that in a positive way. We have a new project now happening right now in Teesside, where students are using our insulation for fashion design and developing gillets and other clothing from the denim products. And it's also used in and it's very well used in acoustic insulation in the Olympics and in other companies. It has a very good thermal performance of 0.039, and it has a very high coefficient sound absorption, absorbing 95% of the sound. It meets fire regulations. It could be a B if it's put behind plasterboard. We have an educational resource that we have working with young children to build little houses and to make and to learn about heat transfer. And that's all free on our website. The growth is there. There's tens of thousands of denim. It's a problem waste, but there's no problem with it. You put it through the mangles. You put as Mike knows, you put the denim jeans through a mangle, and the stuff, the zippers and buttons come out. But the problem is very dusty, and you have to have proper ventilation. And we need to build a new plant here in the UK with proper ventilation, as Mike will well know, my friend. Barriers to growth. The government should be really zero rating insulation, VAT-wise. But that's one of the barriers right there. And lastly, we're a trading arm of a charity, and we give our profits to the charity to do renewable energy projects in solar energy technologies. That's very unique across the world, I would say. And I have a friend who often says, David, when you're giving something away, you're often giving them a 5-pound note with it. But that comes from my ancestry of my father being a peasant. So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you very much. So my question is, could you use other textiles, or does it have to be jeans?
That's a very good question. It's all about fiber length. And the fiber length of your denim is, once recycled, it stays there, but you can put it all back in, you can recycle it, but you can't keep over and over again because the fiber length will be shorter. And that's the issue that we have when you want to blow it in. You can blow it in, but you have to get a special machine that will deal with the long fibers of denim. So I lost one big project because we couldn't find a machine here in the UK to do it.
Is it kind of mechanically bound together? So like
it's bound. Yeah, it's a good question. It's bound together. Oh, that's good. It's bound together with low melt polyester. We're now doing research with the University of Sheffield to change that to a natural fiber or plastic, and we're working with them starting mid-year with a PhD student to do the costing of what that's going to cost and convince the people in France to do it. Right now, the low melt polyester is an oil-based product, and we want to get away with that. We've been trying to do that for years now, but it's like we have to educate the funders to see the value, and that's one of our challenges, is they don't know enough about the technology to make a decision of yes or no.
And what sort of sales do you have in the UK already of the product?
Yeah, 90 this last year was 900,000, 90,000.
90,000 what? Kilos?
No,
pounds?
no, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's it. And if you were to have a lorry of it, and that would get that figure. Yeah. 22 pallets of this would take 2.5 hours to produce, and it would produce 1,647 meters square of it. And then it's 900,000 we had in the last year, and it's been going up every year. But our mother company in France, their turnover was 44 million.
Yeah, I got
okay,
that. Yeah,
sorry.
I just misunderstood when
Sorry,
you explained. No, I'm sorry.
It's me. I get nervous.
And I'm just curious to know its price point compared to similar
Yeah,
products on the market.
That's a challenge, but it's fine. Because it's low carbon and it's recyclable, it lasts 50 years, however, and has good performance, people are looking at price. We can compete, but we're trying to create a rating, an energy rating, like you buy and go in a fridge.
Yep.
Every insulation product should have A, B, C, D rating, and let the consumer make the choice.
Okay.
And that's what we're working on now, for that choice to be made. Mm-hmm. But that at the moment, and also we have an EPD, and we do a low full life cycle cost. Every product should have that low.
Of course.
And it doesn't. So it's an equitable market.
And just my final question.
Sure.
And not to be controversial, but
please do.
Because of Brexit, I just wonder, is there some complexity because of
No,
the relationship of a French company, or are you worried about that, or it just is what it is?
We haven't. People are concerned. We have no problem. We have a very good relationship with the French company. Maybe because I'm American rather than English, because our history is very different, but not with this current president. Sorry, I get into politics there, but
well, that's why.
But no, there's no problem.
Mentioned it,
no,
but
the only issue that we've already started to negotiate with them, and they're saying we got to wait to see what's going to happen to this. But right now, there's no.
You just got to get on and do it.
Got to get on with it, and there's no fees now right now when it comes in.
And there might be, and
it might be, but then they might be reasonable to give us a better price. Who knows? I can't worry about that.
But you're happy having yeah. You have a good relationship. So
we have a great relationship, and what it is that a company Yves Saint Laurent came to refurbish a shop in Oxford Street. They went to France, and the French turned them back to me to have the sale.
And they're using your insulation?
Yeah.
You need to whack that out on social media, my friend.
I'm not much of a social
You
media.
need someone to help you do that.
Okay. Any offers here? Yeah. And then
I think you can talk about it later, perhaps. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've got to show you this. If you want to put it up as a acoustic thing, you can hang this. You put the insulation panel in this. Oh, you put the insulation panel in this, the 45 mil, and you hang it up from ceilings, and it absorbs.
All right, could do with some around this theatre, perhaps. Maybe next time.
Sorry to.
Thank you. So Shire is next. Up.
I'll just leave it there.
That's fine. I'll work round it, don't worry. Hi everyone, my name's Angela, I'm from Shire. I'm the commercial lead for Shire, so I'm here to present today the root-based product. A quick overview of Shire as a business, if I can, just to give you an idea of where it's come from in terms of the inventors of the product. So Shire started in 1989 as civil and structural consulting engineers, so we work on projects from £50 to 50 million. One of our most prestigious is the Alexandra Stadium in Birmingham, which is going to form part of the Commonwealth Games when they come to Birmingham. After the civil and structural engineering consultancy, we opened our own geotechnical division. The purpose of that was purely to help our civil and structural engineers make decisions faster by knowing what's in the ground before we work out what's going on top of it, to put it in a nutshell. In 1998, we were approached by Halifax Bank and Lloyds Bank to start to look at structural repairs of properties that had suffered subsidence damage and were domestic property claims, insurance claims. That then led us to start to look at repeatable patterns and repeatable products for underpinning houses that are subsided and jacking products back up. We then started our own foundation specialism and focused purely on foundations, and Root Base is one of those foundation systems that I'll talk to you about today. Let's move on to Root Base. So in terms of the brief that formed the Root Base product, the brief that we used to get there, we had several companies approach us with several different challenges, from large builders to small builders, people building single-storey extensions, people putting all sorts of different types of foundations in across the country. And they asked us some key kind of challenges, really. One, where there's access restrictions, so that could be somewhere where there's, say, terraced houses in London and it's very difficult to get concrete there. It could also be on greenfield sites. Perhaps it's difficult to get large vehicles without creating temporary roads. Also planning restrictions. We're finding more and more that planning authorities across the UK are restricting the use of concrete products and high CO2, high carbon content products. And also projects where the installation time needs to be faster. So we're all looking for faster project times, faster installation times to help with efficiencies. So that was another challenge we were delivered. And also reducing the carbon from a cradle to grave point of view in terms of the content of those foundations as well. So we developed Root Base, which is a steel structure designed to replace the use of traditional concrete foundations in the main. Root Base is completely concrete free. It's been tested up to 15 tonne. When we design these foundations, we use a factor of safety of 2.5. So each of these foundations can support between 4 and 6 tonne individually. Again, it's been designed by Shire, who are structural engineers. The product is removable, so each of those steel spikes that you can see on the bottom of the product can be removed very simply and easily with a simple farmer's jack. It's also reusable, so you can recite that product elsewhere. So once you've taken it out of the ground, you can recite it elsewhere and reuse that product again. Once you have taken it out of the ground, because it's an inert product, there is nothing left in the ground in terms of toxins and anything else. And it's also recyclable, so it's fully recyclable. It's all made from galvanised steel, which, to your point earlier, Judge, is widely available recycling facilities all the way around the UK, compared to concrete, which there are actually fewer concrete recycling facilities around the UK. Each product is installed in 15 minutes. There's absolutely no soil removal at all, so there's no disposal of any soil in the process unless you want that product to sit just below ground level. There are a variety of options available in terms of the connecting heads that we use. So that shows you on there with a flat head, which is essentially a jacking plate, which can be used, I'll show you later, but for structures like shipping containers. It's installed with a post driver, so you can use a petrol-driven, electric-driven, or people-driven post driver, depending on your preference. It supports single-storey buildings in the main. So, for example, we've had projects in the past where we've used used them as foundations for shipping containers, and also temporary classrooms, glamping pods, anywhere really where it's a single-storey, lightweight structure. They have a 60-year lifespan because of the galvanised steel. They are fully guaranteed by us as a company, and no maintenance is required in that. So just to demonstrate physically how that load path works, you're essentially placing that product on top of the ground. The spikes that you're driving in are creating essentially a pyramid underneath the ground, which is consolidating all of that ground underneath the product. So it can be used in good ground, and it's also excellent for bad ground, where you may have to dig down further to find good ground to support kind of concrete foundations. A quick video here that I hope automatically starts, but I might need to do something. Do I need to click? Here we go. So this is just a simple animation showing you this is a project where the client wanted the head of the product to be just below the ground level. So we've dug out the pockets, placed the product inside. The anchors are being driven in, very simply, very straightforward. These are the heads going on top. So these are the jacking heads, which are screwed into place. And there's our container. It's an instant load capacity, so there's no need to wait for anything to set. So I could do that in the morning and then put my shipping container or my temporary cabin or my classroom on top in the afternoon. So we asked ourselves, did we meet the brief? So in terms of access restrictions, we've now got a hand carryable product that we can take in just a simple van. We can carry that product through people's houses. If, say, it's a terraced house that I mentioned earlier in London and there's an extension going on the back, we can hand carry that product. There's no need for any large machinery or equipment to arrive. Even if there's a greenfield site where somebody's putting a glamping site, that's just a van, or even a person could walk it, really, if they wanted to. In terms of planning restrictions, we can argue two things. We can argue, one, it's temporary because this is removable and reusable, or we can also argue it's permanent and there is no use of concrete in this product. So any restrictions around use of concrete, we've overcome that challenge as well. Can we install it faster? Well, we can install one in 15 minutes. So the example I showed you earlier, four of the products going underneath a simple shipping container. In that case, it was a 20-foot shipping container. You could do the foundations for that within an hour. So it's within 1 hour, it's instant load ready. And in terms of the reduced carbon, you could argue that steel isn't particularly environmentally friendly. It does have its own embodied carbon. However, you're using less steel in terms of material than you would for the equivalent concrete to support that weight above. And it's also, it's also removable, reusable and recyclable as well. So before I finish, I just want to talk you through a very quick project that we worked on in Worcestershire. This is an adult training centre for adults with learning difficulties. And this is a training room. It was a temporary classroom. The customer just wanted minimal disruption. They wanted everything to continue in the day-to-day works along the rest of the site. Access was quite restrictive in terms of turning circles for large vehicles. And there were 44 bases that we installed in 5 days for a project that was 27 metres by 60 metres. So 5 days for a project of that size is rather impressive. And just to show you what that looks like. So here we have the product being installed, the spikes going in, our heads going on top. You can see there the petrol, that's actually an electric-driven post driver that I mentioned earlier. And there you have that bottom image showing you all of those bases. That was then a series of porter cabins that were shipped in and then connected together to create the training rooms. So that's me.
Thank you for your presentation. Very good.
Thank you.
So my question is, if you're doing more traditional construction, so if it isn't an off-site fabricated unit that's being dropped onto the plates, how does it work with that, or does it work with that?
Sorry, I don't understand.
More
the question.
traditional construction. So all the examples you showed us are basically like an off-site fabricated unit?
Yeah, they're just simply manufactured to our design with a steel fabricator. So that could be done anywhere in the country. And then we take that to site ourselves. Does that answer your question?
So you'd have to sort of use it with like a steel-framed system on site?
No, we can use any type of system on site that just has our frame. So you could use that with a timber frame. You could use it with a. We also do our own beam system, so we could provide a beam system.
Yeah.
We can also provide an insulated panel that we use in conjunction with another product that we have if somebody just wants to literally put the walls off the floor. So we can accommodate all sorts of different superstructures, and also the head connections can vary as well. So we can have something that it fixes into. We can have something that maybe uplift is a challenge. Say safari tents are a good example of that, where we can create an eye, a hook that the tent can hook onto, and then we have the same weight, capacity in tension as you do in compression. So it would be, a kind of a 4 to 6 ton uplift capacity on that product.
How does it relate to trees? Does it provide any benefit in a site where there are lots of trees, or even TPO trees?
It certainly does, yes, absolutely. So there is no damage to the roots. If there is, it's very minimal damage to 1 or 2 roots that are nearer the surface. There is no, the load capacity is going down those spikes, and in most cases going down below the zone of influence of the tree roots. So you're not crushing the tree roots, you're taking that load and putting it down below the tree root.
I'm a bit ignorant about foundations, so I just wondered, do you have any competitors? Is this an entirely unique product, or is it patented, or?
So it is patented. So they're in the UK. So there are several. Obviously, traditional concrete foundations is a competitor. There are people that do surface-mounted products for temporary, but they're not. They are totally dependent on the bearing capacity of the soil that they're placed on. So if you have bad ground and you have a product placed on the ground, somebody's got to calculate how much is that going to sink, basically. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Sam Chapman and I'm CEO of Kenotech and co-founder, and we are building a circular economy revolution starting in Scotland but right here in the UK. Kenotech is responding to some key challenges in the construction industry, namely brick shortages. Over 500 million bricks last year were imported, and that's of a 2.6 billion a year demand for bricks in the UK. And this is stifling house building. As we're all hearing, this is a big societal issue. Over maybe perhaps 300,000 new homes a year will be required, which affects us all. And indeed, we have new waste legislation that has been coming in year on year, up to next year, where 70% of all demolition construction waste will need to be recycled, and 0 will be allowed to go to landfill. So critical issues for us all. And this is all in an industry that has some of the largest carbon and energy emissions in the UK, and is the largest contributor to waste. And this is Kenotech's solution to these big problems, the K-brick. This is an external facing brick that we wish to replace traditional clay-fired brick products and cement brick and block products. It's highly sustainable, so no firing like a traditional clay brick in kilns of 1200 degrees C. It's about 1/10 the carbon and energy footprint of traditional products. It is effectively storing waste, so a typical 2-build house is effectively storing 30 tons of recycled construction and demolition waste. And we have a speed of production, so within 24 hours we have made our product, compared with traditional clay brick and concrete block taking a much longer time. We're the first to market with such a high recycled content. Our product is made from over 95% recycled demolition construction waste, which is inert, old bricks, old rubble, old stone, recycled plasterboard, and recycled pigments so we can offer bespoke colours for our product range. And we also are much more flexible in our production locations because we can be based at waste handlers and where waste is currently being recycled and handled, rather than traditional clay products, which is attached to clay pits, and where cement, such as Portland cement, is mined from the raw resource. We have been testing our product for over 6 years at Heriot-Watt University. We're a spin-out company, in-house testing to all of the British standard tests. We have double the thermal insulation credentials of traditional Portland cement block, and we are ongoing with certification with the BRE for an environmental product declaration, and indeed with the BBA, the British Board of Agremont, for an Agremont certificate. This is to ensure that the market can and trusts our product to use it. We also have a UK patent granted, and we've also patenting across Europe, the US and Canada, so we really can scale this and make the difference that we really want to. Why now? As I said, there's a huge shortage in domestic supply of concrete, traditional clay brick products, which is stifling new housing, commercial builds and renovation. And also there's a large growth in the green market. We're forever getting more and more interest from specifiers and indeed clients wanting sustainable and green products. And we have this large desire to build in the UK up to 1 million new homes. And indeed, there's enough of this construction demolition waste to make 4.5 billion bricks a year in the UK using our K-brick technology, which is nearly double the demand of bricks currently. So there's more than enough of this material to meet current demand. And indeed, this will avoid landfill taxes already associated with this, with both the waste and new products, the carbon tax of making these products, and the associated fossil fuel use. And indeed, with our thermal insulation credentials, we'll also reduce the cost of occupancy of new builds. So our growth strategy over the next 2 years, we're going to be a manufacturer of K-bricks ourselves, working up to a 2 million a year capacity. And after this moment, we're going to not only be a manufacturer, but develop the manufacturing system, and then supply these systems to waste handlers to really increase the scale and the potential of this product and this circular economy ethos, not only in the UK, but across Europe and further abroad. We've just got the exciting news that we were selected for the Serpentine Pavilion, which will be open from mid-June this year in Hyde Park. And we have developed a custom module of our K-brick product to meet this exciting project. We always joked our first house would be pink. We didn't actually necessarily believe that joke, but here we are building a pink pavilion. Thank you very much, everybody. I please welcome you over to our stand to come and touch and feel the product. Thank you to the BRE, and obviously thank you to Future Build for the opportunity to pitch today. And I look forward to welcoming you over in our stand. Thank you.
Hi, well, thank you for that. Why isn't it already being done?
That's a good question. The market is full of incumbent companies, brick manufacturers, cement, brick and block manufacturers. They've got a very good model. They've been doing it for very many years. And until carbon taxes and other taxes and landfill taxes have kicked in, they've always been the cheaper and the more reliable option. And there's also the kind of vertical integration of house builders to brick merchants to kind of specifiers and users. So we feel this is a disruptor, but it's a new thing in a conservative market, and we're really trying to make that impact. But part of that is BBA accreditation and the traditional accreditation routes to ensure that there's trust in a new product like this.
Thanks very much. I'm interested in this kind of distributed manufacture model. So you effectively kind of license out the technology to local authorities. Is that who will be, or
waste,
the BIFAs and
waste
the
handlers
and
or urban regeneration projects or local government, depending on who owns and operates the waste stream effectively. So we're looking to map these material flows around the UK. But in particular, you can base these sites where the material is coming and going. And if you're a waste handler, they have a full truck coming to site. You can make your K-brick, they have an empty truck leaving site. So we don't want to be adding more infrastructure to the roads.
And just one last question. This the aesthetic value of being able to change the kind of DNA of what goes in.
Yeah.
Because it's coming locally, hopefully, the supply
So we
chain
always
is
want a
in effect.
75-mile bubble
Okay.
of this movement of material, ideally.
So in effect, it's a vernacular kind of product in that sense.
Yes, and it's recyclable at the end of its life as well, so it becomes a closed loop. But also our patent and our additional little tweak is that we can then colour. So the waste streams may have different colours in their essence, but then we can maintain consistency
Change
through
that
use
if
of
you want.
recycled pigments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You think I care about money? I don't, but I just feel I asked you this question before, but just for the benefit of the audience, you know, how do they compare in price to a normal
So they're
brick?
comparable of traditional clay-fired brick. We're a little bit more expensive than a concrete brick, but anywhere from sort of 600 to 800 pounds per thousand, which is how the kind of brick industry price their products. But in the future, when there's real scales there,
Then
because
it
of the
comes
negative
down.
cost, that price will come down.
And then just, I just want to make sure I understand this, is that you can actually transport in your technology, your facility that is processing the waste on site and create the new brick there.
Once we've got our first manufacturing site up to scale, that's the model that will be replicated. Yeah, whether it's 2
Because
million,
at the
10
moment,
million.
there's waste from wherever coming to your facility.
Yes, yeah, and we
But
have
in
our
the
first.
future, you would be able to have facilities wherever they're required, and they would presumably be temporary, right?
Exactly,
'Cause once they-
exactly. And the very long-term model is that they could go onto a site. They wouldn't even have to be at a waste handler, but that comes down to the certification accreditation models adapting and changing.
And I'm obsessed with reuse, so I just want to
Yeah.
wonder whether you've thought about that you're disincentivizing reuse. Have you got any criteria in place with your waste handlers of how they're deciding what's not reusable? Like, is that kind of in your...
So we can reuse what's currently a low-grade hardcore that they're desperate to shift. So they're already desiring to move this material, but that's why we want to tie the waste companies in with a partnership or a franchise model. We're not sure yet, because they have the ability to outprice and change things, but we have the technology. So we want the whole industry to benefit here.
Yeah.
And that's really the idea.
I guess
and we're reusing
we just
bricks.
need to be careful that we don't disincentivize reuse by creating demand for waste bricks to make these bricks, if
Yeah,
you see
absolutely.
what I mean.
Yeah. Old bricks, old rubble, old stone go into these as well. And cities will be mines of the future, so that's what we're looking at.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've got another question. So they're not fired, so how are they bonded, the bricks?
So we have this patented binder, which is a copolymer that we've developed at Heriot-Watt University, and that is part of our binding agent. And we also mechanically press these bricks with high pressure and some vibration.
And just, I don't know if it was up before, but just another question. What's the durability of these bricks compared to a typical clay-fired brick?
So we're going through all of the same standard testing with the BBA for their testing, so it's very comparable. So we're going through the freeze-thaw test resistance, various UV tests, fire resistance, all the standard tests that a traditional clay brick goes through.
So you expect it to last for hundreds of years?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank
A very
you very
minimum
much.
to get building warrants, yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye.
you.
So last, but I'm sure not least, over to a lot.
Thank you very much for having us, Future Builds. We're surrounded by some great physical material innovation, but we thank you for the opportunity to pitch something that's more behavioral and social. We quite literally stumbled upon the idea for a lot visiting Moorgate on a Saturday for a spot of lunch. Could you believe it? Wagamama's was closed. Worse still, so was the whole of Moorgate. It got us thinking, and we did a bit of research. Did you know the United Nations reports that 68% of the world population is projected to live in urban areas by 2050? In the wake of our climate crisis, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, aiming to end poverty and protect our planet by 2030, advise that cities and human settlements of today and the future are to be inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Achieving true sustainability will require innovation in our environmental, economic, and social activities. Charities, community groups, and social service providers help underpin the social sustainability of any given place. They understand and enhance the lives of the people and the places that they represent. It is a sad reality that these groups are impacted by funding cuts and often cannot afford to hire a space to meet with friends and colleagues and continue to do the amazing work that they do. Coupled with the equally sad reality that hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial, office, retail, and residential space is being underutilised or left empty, we feel that an opportunity to be more socially responsible is being missed.
Hello. So we are proposing essentially a networking platform. So it's quite similar to the Airbnb model that links together potential space sharers. So that could be an asset manager or a developer or a landlord in London with an accessible and high quality space, with a potential space occupier. So that's a charity, a community group, someone that might, a group that might maybe have lost their government funding and finds it more difficult to spend the money on doing the actual important stuff, not just spending it on hiring a space for a huge and unsustainable amount of money. Why share space? So we think it's very important that charities and organisations should be supported to do the good things that they do. I think if you can help them do that wherever possible, if you are a business that has a space that is just going to be going to kind of waste anyway, then that's probably the best way of doing it. Help provide a solution to the issue of government funding cuts, like we just said. Activate unused spaces. So it just seems wild that you have one of the biggest cities in the world that is totally dead on a weekend. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So actually using these spaces for doing a good thing that doesn't cost any money also gets them kind of lively again. It gets things moving. It makes spaces more interesting. It looks, as a space user that's giving, a space giver, it looks very good to your brand investors and your business partners. I think lots of businesses are encouraged to do kind of socially sustainable initiatives, and it's always a positive story. And also proving you're doing your bit to your consumers. Another very important point to note that's not actually on here is that the platform also matches the aims of the business and the charity. So in order to kind of transfer that corporate social responsibility, we are able to match a business that might be interested in the environment or interested in helping build community groups or whatever that might be with an organisation or a charity that does a similar thing. So it's kind of a full circle. And spaces that can be shared can literally be anything. It could be the big glass foyer that you see in Moorgate or the city. It can be meeting rooms during the week. It can be desk space on a weekend. Retail space and vacant residential units are also things that some of the developers that we've spoken to are interested in handing over. So literally anything that's sitting there, any square footage can be used, essentially. We also need to make sure that that people respect the process. So if a business is giving over their space and doing this amazing thing, we need to make sure that the people using the space don't take full advantage of it. So they need to be a registered charity or organisation, just so we can make sure they don't have a house party in it or something on the weekend.
So what's next for a lot? We're currently engaged with leading property developers. Our research has proven that developers and asset managers are increasingly curious as to how to activate their spaces with community, retail, co-working and other flexible uses. We're also engaging with local councils. We want to support councils wherever we can. A lot compensates for the lack of services and funding that councils aren't always able to offer by working with them to identify council-owned sites as potential occupation spaces and match them with the right local charity or organisation. And we're also engaging with business improvement districts. Finally, we are working on an online subscription-based platform to help automate our process and maximise the numbers of space sharers and space occupiers. We will be live on Kickstarter later today to help raise funds. Investors will be rewarded with an honorary accreditation for as a return for their investment. And we invite anyone who is interested in a lot to reach out to us, as we'd love to chat and we'd also love to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Questions, please.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. So I suppose I'm quite interested to see or to understand, have you already managed to do this in a more manual sense before you've got the online platform?
Yes,
And
so
could you provide a bit more information about how many and who's sort of participating at the moment?
So we both have experience in working kind of community engagement in urban planning. So we essentially help developers get applications through planning based on the community relationships that they build. So through working in this industry for 10 years between us together, a lot of the projects that we've worked on have been focused on building these relationships with developers and community groups that they aren't always able to do themselves. So we already know that there's a need for that service that we would be offering, but it would be on a much wider scale that's a lot more easy to manage. I can't go into huge detail on what those are because, again, it's outside of a lot of it. It's based on existing networks. But as we build this based on that knowledge, we'll be able to provide more information on it.
Thank you. Can you tell me a bit more about this matching of kind of aim between the organisations? Can you give us some examples of that, please?
Sure. So we spoke about where this idea originated from, and in very early conversations that we had internally, I kind of romanticized the idea of maybe pairing, let's say, a tech company with a co-working school for children that don't have access to those educational facilities. And it works great for the tech company. They have a child sat at their desk, a photo of that they can slap on their website that looks good from a PR perspective, but it also helps the school with access to free space. So we can talk very, very high-level themes, environmental issues, social issues, gender issues. But we can also talk about just the practicalities of running a business and what your focus is and how you can support emerging talent. We quite like to see space as a catalyst for change, but it could roll into the sharing of skills or the sharing of resources to empower these community groups to grow and continue to do the amazing work that they do.
Hi, so there's a lot of organisations that already do this and have been doing it for a really long time. So I'm just trying to understand, do you just want to do this just in the City of London? Because I would kind of understand that, because they're in a little world unto themselves, right? And you'd have to have incredibly beautiful relationships with a number of people there to make anything happen.
Yes.
So is that right, or are you?
Well, I think because that's our kind of remit of knowledge now is the London market for it. We work with a lot of developers across London at the moment anyway, separately to this. So we know that pool is there. And we also work with the community groups, so we know that pool is there. So essentially, we just want to be able to put them together. And it's definitely a model that could work elsewhere, because once the platform's been built, there's no saying that it can't be expanded. It's just we built those databases that will go into the platform already for London. So we're basically just now waiting to be able to put them all in one place.
Okay, so yeah. And compared to your competitors, I'm always quite interested to know why a startup like yourself might not approach an existing organisation doing it and work with them and say, hey, we think we can help you make it better, or we'd love to be a niche part of what you're doing. I guess everyone just wants to start their own thing, but is there a reason why you've not done that?
I'd love to hear kind of the competitors that you might be thinking of. For us, the competition has come from those that are doing it in-house. So there's a number of property developers in London who are trying to start this up internally, but they don't have the resourcing. And also there's...
Well, that would make sense if you helped them.
Yeah, and we're also thinking that this could kind of spiral into an accreditation, so that it's something third party, so it's removed from the developer themselves, and it shows something a lot more genuine than just doing something internally. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I use pop-up space all the time, so I know it's a pain in the A to organise and sort, and sometimes that takes a lot longer than actually running the little pop-up that, for a 2-day pop-up, it might take you 15 days of organising to get the space.
Exactly. We thought another one of the key things that we're offering is that link of priorities together, because lots of developers, again, they have aims that their investors are interested in, that they're kind of shaping brand is interested in, like you and I and Grosvenor. They're very specific. So being able to allow each of those developers to be so focused about what they want to deliver, but within a wider platform. So they have access to more community groups and charities than they've ever had before, isn't something that's offered at the moment, and that's our kind of target market for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Right, so we're going to go off to the pub for 10 minutes and decide who's won. But we thought in the meantime, maybe people might have questions. So I don't know if you all want to sort of sit at the front, and then my colleagues are going to sort of help. Well, hopefully people got questions. If not, just talk to yourselves or ask each other questions. But we're going to go off somewhere and decide who the winner is. We've got 10 minutes. So, okay.
Has anybody got any questions for the panelists? You must have some questions. Anybody want to know anything? Oh. So it's working now. So I was going to ask, what difference would it make to win this, and what would you like to do with the opportunities ahead?
Really good question. I think for us it validates the product, and it validates what we're saying about the product in terms of the concrete-free, recyclable, the reusable, and yeah, validation for us in order to help spread the word, to help people recognise it and give it that credibility. But in addition, that's what it means to Shire.
Oh, hi. Yes. What we want to have is to raise the awareness of that we exist, and that the value of a low carbon product is critically important to address the climate emergency issues that we're now facing. And every product should be looking at that to make things of more low carbon emissions in the manufacturing process.
I think for us it is actually it's totally different. I feel like what we've offered today is something totally different. It's not a new product. Being able to use what already exists and use it to the best of our abilities and use it well without having to build something new. So I think for us it's actually just mainly about sharing that message and getting as many people involved in the crowdfunding campaign as we can possibly get.
Yeah, I'm always in it to win it, but I could easily share the winnings with everybody here. So it was nice to hear your talks. And no, it's basically the biggest benefit is to get the word out there, and then get possibility to show that you are good, and that's I think it's key. And action is the fact.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think it's all been said, but validate the product and also work our way into very established networks which have been there for a very long time. In particular, our product, bricks have been around thousands of years, so we want to break into the incumbents and the traditional users, and showcase a new product through the likes of the BRE to get our product and name out there.
Yes, it's all been said by all of the other fantastic contenders, but yes, we don't normally operate within the construction sector per se. That product that we've been speaking about today is quite an insular market, the flooring industry. We are at the moment reaching out to architects, specifiers, to try and get our product into new projects where sustainability, life cycle, and indeed clean air quality is at the heart of what they're trying to achieve. So we would really love to be, recognised as part of this this process. Any other questions? Oh, gentleman in the right.
I have a question about circularity. Some of you have consumer products or products which could be, you call it, you own the product not anymore. You give it to the customer, they pay a rent or something like that, and then you give it back. Are you working on that too? Product like a service or light as a service as examples. It works in the carpet industry, I guess. It also could work for the brick industry in the kitchen.
Okay, in the flooring market, yes, the rental of carpet tiles has become quite common in some places, especially with manufacturers who offer full cradle-to-cradle products. When it comes to a component like carpet underlay, no, that hasn't made itself to the market yet. I think what we must try and always do is just educate our customers wherever possible about the potential for reuse and recycling, and looking for those opportunities to make sure that the waste is streamed to the right places to make sure that we derive the full value from the raw material.
In our world, we'd be providing a waste service, essentially, whether it's through a waste partner or through our own then future processes, because the ideal model for us, moving kind of a few gears through, would be go to a developer. We can take your waste away, we can cut off all those landfill taxes, really save you money on the front end, and then provide you a product made from that same waste without moving it around the country, without burying it in a hole, and developing it back. So that's the nature of the entire product is what we want to kind of reduce that raw material waste and offer a waste service, waste handling, waste reduction service.
Did I understand also if to rent also the product? Yeah. So I here it's new in the kitchen. I've been talking about it a little bit before, but that we could probably rent because our product is so good that it will last. But it's always a risk of investment. But in September, I shook hands in Barcelona and said, "Okay, I'll rent you 20 kitchens for 30 years." So I maybe if the risk is not too big, then I'm ready to do it. Time for action.
In the Netherlands, it happens like that.
Ours isn't necessarily a similar product, so I'll pass over.
Yeah, it's reusable, non-toxic. It can be taken out. It has been done in 2012 Olympics. They took it out and sent it on a container to Solschi and used it again, the NBC broadcasting company. Because it's non-toxic, non-itch, it could be moved about. But if you're going to install insulation, don't take out the bad stuff that's in there, just put ours over it. Otherwise, your air quality will just be horrendous. But you can reuse it. And we're looking, once we get to a different binder, we're looking to make it compostable.
Okay, so ours can work on a rental model. So we have been approached by several people that we've spoken to that manufacture the modular construction. We haven't got that model yet, but there's nothing stopping us creating a pricing model whereby somebody can rent the product from us, we retain the asset, and then once we get that asset back at the end of its life, we're responsible for the recycling of it. To answer that question. So not yet, but it's possible. One more question?
Hello. Sorry, really quickly. You mentioned YSL on Oxford Street with your denim insulation. Your insulation.
Yes.
Do you know of any other retailers using it right now? Or have you had any feedback on how Yves Saint Laurent are getting on with it?
We get a lot of feedback, very positive feedback.
Yeah.
We got people reusing it all the time. A lot of repeat customers.
Yeah.
So we send out a form for that, and
Okay.
And we have case studies on our website.
Okay.
They give you details of their point. Much so for sound insulation that's used, and also people with problems with problems with breathing,
Yeah.
they like it because there's no problem with it at all. And I can give you that. I'll give you all the.
Find you in a second.
Yeah, please.
I was just going to add to that I have a sample of this at home. And if you ever have offcuts, you should turn them into feather dusters.
Yeah.
Because it's just awesome. Like, that's what I dust my house with, is my sample of this that I have at home.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of inside info for you.
Hey, we could do a little, we can make a deal here, huh?
Right, well, I don't know if this is on. Can you hear me? Is it on? Okay, thank you, everybody. And yeah, it's a shame we weren't here to listen to the questions and the answers, but we had an important job to do over there. And we actually came to a unanimous decision, I think it's fair to say, yeah, almost. And but it was quite a difficult decision because all of the products and the services are very, very strong contenders. But in the end, we chose K-Brick and Kenetech as the winner. So congratulations. You want to take that out? And you actually have a nice trophy. But we're just going to, I mean, Kat's going to do a sort of little synopsis of all of them. But after me and Nick are going to be, we're going to say, you know, what the main reasons why we chose your product. I mean, for me, it was the sort of sheer, obviously, you know, I know there's so many bricks that are used within UK construction. So it's a huge market. So the potential to disrupt that market is also huge. And the embodied carbon savings combined with that means that it could potentially have an enormous impact. So, so that was one of the reasons. And Nick's going to talk about some of the other reasons.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, I guess for me, I really like the fact that it stood out because it has an aesthetic quality as well. I'm a designer, and I think a lot of what we're doing in the circular economies is very kind of quantitative. It's very technical, quite scientific, behind the scenes stuff, which your product seems to do really well. But also there's a cultural side to this that I think is really important, where cities start to look like what they represent. And I think your product could really help people to understand and visualize and, you know, make tangible the kind of benefits that your product brings. They become part of the kind of social and the visual fabric of our lives, not just the kind of technical fabric, if that makes sense. But I also think this notion of exporting the knowledge but keeping the materials local seems really valid, and I think for me that's what really won it over, this idea of kind of distributed manufacture. So, you know, lots of people sharing in the benefits of the idea, but on a local level that seems more democratic, I guess, in the longer term. But you hold on to the patent and make some money along the way, so that seems great. Thank you.
Jilly's just going to hand over the trophy because she has to be on another stage somewhere else. And I was just going to say about all the participants is that it sounds so naff, but really any of you could have just won that award because it's incredibly brilliant that you're all making sure that waste is a resource, and you know you've got your closed loop thinking. So we can only wish you all incredibly well and success, and I'm sure you will all grow, and well done for trying to use up unused space in the city. I think you're going to need an angel on your shoulder definitely to pull it off. But thank you very much for all your contribution, and they're all fantastic products and companies.